Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Edinburgh Jewish Cultural Centre Live. I'm David Neville, and I'm going to be in conversation with the boxer Gary Jacobs and journalist Colin Grant. Hi, Gary and Colin, thanks for joining us.
Hi, you're most
Hello.
welcome. Hi, how you
Nice
doing,
to meet
guys?
you.
Good. Gary Jacobs was an outstanding welterweight boxer of the 1980s and 90s, winning the European, Commonwealth, and British championships, and fighting a legendary bout for the world title. In 1995, the World Boxing Council ranked Jacobs the world's number one welterweight contender. That year, he fought world champion Pernell Whitaker,
That's the
widely
one.
regarded as the world's best boxer, and lost on points. Gary was given the nickname Kid in tribute to Great Britain's Jewish boxing greats Kid Berg and Kid Lewis. So I'm now speaking to Gary Kid Jacobs and Colin Kid Grant, and it's great to have you both with us. Gary, we're doing this interview because you've recently released your autobiography, which you wrote with Colin, and it's a great read. It's called Fightback. You probably won't be able to see it when I hold it up. Oh, maybe you can. Yeah, and it tells the story of your life and your struggles at times inside and outside the ring. But
Yes.
I'd like to take you back and ask when did it all start? When and how did you get into boxing?
I got into boxing because, well, my family, we emigrated to Australia. I'll take you right back to I was like 14 and a half years old. We emigrated to Australia with my parents. We only lasted a year and a half and we came back. And when we came back, we moved into a place in Shawlands called Lothian Court. And they became friendly with a man called Morris Lewis, who the book is sort of a little bit dedicated to. Because without Morris, I would never have done or got as far as I believe. I was very well protected by him. He looked after me. So, and I met this guy, Morris. My dad said to me, my dad said to me, "Can you fight, son?" I went, "Of course I can fight." He went, "Well, about boxing?" I went, "I've got absolutely no interest in boxing." He went, "You get 50 quid a fight." I said, "Where's the gloves?" Where's the gloves? Because at that stage, and then I was how I met Colin as well. I was working as a jobbing jeweler. I used to make jewellery, repair jewellery, and you're getting £35 a week. And I'm thinking, £50 for a fight? Yeah, I'll take up boxing. Thought it was quite handy. Used to fight quite a lot at school. Then went to a boxing club. And then realised I couldn't fight. I then kept my mouth shut and became a little bit more humble. That's how it all began.
Right, and in the book, you do say that you moved school quite a bit, and
Well,
was yeah, carry
yeah,
on.
well, yes. We started off in Batterfield Primary School, up to primary five. Then mum and dad moved. We moved down to Clarkson. Then I went to Netherley Primary School. Between primary five and primary seven, met two of my best friends, Martin Newman and Alan Egonick, who are still my friends to this day. Martin is in London and my pal Alan's in Calgary. Speak to them regularly. Uh, and then from there, we went to Williamwood School for 6 months, and then Dad moved again from Clarkson. We moved to Newton Mearns, so I then moved school again. So you're always a new kid in the school, not really finishing school with the people that you started with. And then after 6 months of being in Mearns Castle, they decided to go to Australia. So we emigrated to Sydney, Australia. I was 14 and a half years old. Finished first year. So first year was 6 months in Mearns Castle, 6 months in Williamwood. Went to Australia, went to Randwick High School, uh, and finished my schooling over there. And we lasted a year and a half. So I finished school, came back, and that's how we got into boxing. So I didn't really finish my school. I didn't go through the whole school period with lots of people. I remember a couple of people, uh, and when we came back, I got a job as a jeweler.
Yeah, but all this moving schools, was that one of the reasons you got into fights because you were establishing yourself as the new guy?
I think as a boy, when you move schools, there's always like the there's always trouble for boys in schools. You've always got to prove yourself, stand your ground. You'll get picked on, you'll get bullied. I would certainly wasn't going to get bullied. Uh, I didn't think I was fighting quite a lot in school, which was really terrible. But that was just because I was moving schools, and it was kind of hard to fit in. You tried to fit in, and you're trying to find groups to fit in with, and maybe that's why I was fighting all the time. No, I'm not happy about it. Wasn't pleased about it. It wasn't the reason I became a boxer. It's just I was just fighting a lot, and it just wasn't nice actually.
So when you started boxing and you take up boxing, you said earlier that you discovered that you couldn't fight. Can you explain what you mean by that? I mean,
Well, the reason why I used to fight all the time, I never really lost many street fights, school fights, and all the rest of it. And and I thought I could fight. So that's what I mean by saying I thought I could really fight. When I went to the boxing club, and there's boxing gloves and there's rules, and there's wee kids there that are like you can't bite them, you can't grab them, you can't do anything. Because I used to do judo as well. You weren't allowed to. You only have to use your hands and use your skills to hit people. And boxing is a real skill. Fighting is a real art. And that's when I learned. I went, I'm not that good at this. So I then sort of, at that age, I was like, okay, I'm going to keep my mouth shut because you can be talking to the man next door to you, you could be like, 2 foot two, and he'd be able to beat you. He'd be able to beat you up. So that's when I sort of became pretty humble about it all. And it was like then I started. I had 12 amateur fights over the space of 3 years, and then I said to all my friends, right, I'm going to have a proper go at this. So at 19 years old, I turned professional. And then I decided to train. All I did was eat, sleep, and train. I got up in the morning, went running, went to work, went into done my job 9 to 5 as a goldsmith. After that, I went to the gym and trained. So that's that. And to do anything, I think to become good at anything, any job or whatever, you have to be all in. So that's why I just didn't want to get hurt. So that was the fear of getting hurt was the reason why I trained really hard. And the reason why I trained really hard is if I could throw punches for 3 minutes of every round, you're not throwing anything. And
mhm,
and that's really how it all started. And
yeah.
With Morris Lewis, and it was with Morris because he lived next door to us, was the one that sort of took me under his wing, and because he's in the book quite a lot.
As I understand it, he hadn't been in the boxing world. He was just a fan.
He
Is
was
that
in the
right?
ball. He was involved with a guy called Jim Murray,
Oh, was he? Right.
who was involved with Jim Watt at the time. And he was on the sort of periphery of boxing, but never involved with training anybody, never had anybody, wasn't with anybody. He was a boxing fan, and he was very much round about the boxing all the time. And when I came along, I signed with Morris. So, and it all sort of began. So at 19 years old, I had my first 19 and a half, I had my first professional fight. John Conlon, I think it was. I'll never forget it. 6 2-minute rounds, and it was just. It was. I think I got £200 away back in the 80s for that. I think I was. And you were getting £50 a week for fighting, for working.
And did you win that fight?
I won. I won my first 10
Was
fights.
it? Right. And Colin, just to switch to you for a minute. So you began writing about interviewing Gary and writing about him. Was that during his amateur stage or when he became professional?
I think um, I think it was he just started as a professional at this point. I don't think I heard about him when he was an amateur.
Hmm.
And also in the Sunday Post being a big paper at the time, we wouldn't have written about an amateur, unless he
Right.
was like a world champion or something. An unknown amateur would not be somebody that I would be interested in interviewing.
Hmm.
No, absolutely. As I said, I only had 12 amateur fights. You look at these boys that are amateurs and they become Olympic champions. That means they become the best amateurs in the world. That's why they get a springboard, and they usually get paid money to go and join a big promoter. Because you are the best amateur in the world, so you get a head start of everybody in the pro game. So and they're quite entitled to that because they've served their time as amateurs. And if you serve your time as an amateur and you become the best amateur in the world and you want to become a professional, you're going to go with the biggest promoter that's going to come in and offer you the biggest prize. And so for me, I had 12 fights, 12 fights in 3 years, and then I decided, I went, okay, I'm going to get a few quid for doing this, turn professional, not thinking anything of it, not believing that I was going to go where I went to. It was just basically to get some extra money every month on top of my wages.
So you've turned professional. You've now got a bit of support. Tell us a little bit about the training regime that you went into at that period.
My training regime was I used to wake up at 7 in the morning, 7:30 in the morning. I used to run 5 miles. I actually ran into town, believe it or not. I ran into work, done my work. So that was my run in the morning, doing the work. And then worked from 9 till 5. And then after that, I came home, and then Morris and I went to the gym. It could have been Blantyre, it could have been Blondie McEwen's gym, it could have been Casamount, it could have been anywhere. So at that stage, we ran in the morning and we trained at night. And when we first turned professional, so that happened for about 3 years, and then after about 3 years, I'd won my first 9 fights, and then I fought for a Scottish title, and I lost the Scottish title, which I don't believe I did, but we lost it, and I actually avenged that fight afterwards. To be honest, we fought for it again. So after that, when I became Scottish champion, and because being Jewish, I had a huge following. All of a sudden, all the Jewish people had somebody to follow. So wherever I was going, I was like selling loads of tickets. So people were interested. Then more people were interested, and then the sort of the bigger promoters. At that time, it was Mike Barrett, Mickey Duff, who were running the sort of boxing at the time. And after 3 years winning the Scottish title, they got in touch, and they flew me down to London for a meeting. We went down to London for a meeting, and just being a wee 22-year-old boy walking down to London and sort of living in Newton Mearns I lived in, but walking, going into London, seeing the bright lights of London, in the West End, in Soho, going into these big offices, seeing pictures of like really famous people up in the walls of this office, and then you go and have a meeting. They tell you what they can do for you, and you're like, okay, I'm going to sign with you. And then I signed with Mike Barrett, Mickey Duff.
And the further you got, did your training regime become more intense, harder work?
Well, what had happened is yes, well, it's sort of, it's lifestyle rather than training. It's like it's your life. You're in your bed at 10 o'clock at night. You're tired anyway. You're up at 7 in the morning. You're running. You're training. They start training at lunchtime. So after 3 years, when I went full time pro, I moved to London. Uh, and I was very, very, very lucky. I've got some good friends in Ivor Tiefenbroom and Gilad Tiefenbroom, who own a company called Lynn Products, Lynn Hi-Fi. Best turntables, best sound systems in the world. And Ivor came to the boxing, and he said, I want to help you. And he gave me a flat to live in London for 8 years. So that was
Amazing.
my. So I went up, and he bought me a whole load of equipment, a whole load of stuff, and he didn't. I wrote out of a list of what I needed, and I was like, it was kind of quite a lot of stuff actually, and he didn't even look at it. He just called his buyer, and Herbie Lennon at the time, and threw it to me. He says, "Get him that." He says, "Now what can I do for you?" I said, "Well, I'm going to go to London. How about help me down with some transport?" Or whatever. He went, "Where are you staying?" I went, "I've not got anywhere to stay." He says, "Right, I've got a flat in London. You're staying there." So he gave me. He had a company flat, Swiss Cottage. Uh, and that's when I stayed down there and met his son Gilad Tiefenbroom.
So
And
that's a tremendous investment in you, and they must have really felt that you had something to offer the boxing world, that you had the commitment to take this far.
well, being a young Jewish boy, I think he just wanted to help. There wasn't many of us doing the fighting game, and as you said, Jack Kidberg, Ted Kid Lewis, they were back in the 50s and the 60s. There was a wee Jewish boy out in the 80s, trying to make his way in the sport, and he just wanted to help. He just wanted to help. Didn't want anything off it. Didn't want anything for it. He just wanted to help, and I am eternally grateful for that help from him and his family. And as it so happens, his young son Gilad Tiefenbroom used to come down. He was 15 years old, and it's like, I'm like 15 traveling to London on your own. There's just no way you would let a child these days travel on their own into London. Uh, and we just became friends, and I knocked it off, and I went bigger, and I went to America. And I'll skip forward a little bit, but I'll come back. So Gilad is now the managing director of Lynn Products, the company who makes sound systems. And I train Gilad, and I train people in the company. So I'm up there every week, and that's a friendship of 30, 40 years. 40 years. So we've been friends for 40 years.
So you're down in London. Things are moving on. Are you now getting bigger fights and more pressure?
I didn't feel pressure, to be honest. I just think all I used to think was I didn't think of belts. I just thought of like, if I win this one, I get more money for the next one. That was my sort of trainer for it. I didn't think I was going to become British champion, Commonwealth, because the first title that I won was the Commonwealth title, which I fought a guy called Wolf Jensen in the Kelvin Hall. And then I won the WBC International title at 23 years old. I went to Las Vegas. I was main event in Caesars Palace, Las Vegas, not even thinking any of that. And not even, you know, it's only when you retire and think of the things that you've done and what you've done in the sport or what you've done in life that you actually, well, that's not, but so Madison Square Garden at 23 years old. Caesars,
Amazing. Yeah.
Caesars Palace at 23 years old. In the Madison Square Garden fight, actually, I fought a guy called James Buddy McGutt, and we took that fight at short notice. I was managed by Mike Barrett at the time. Mike Barrett and Mickey Duff were a partnership. It was Barrett Duff Promotions, and they'd split up. But when I had signed with them, I'd signed with Mike Barrett. So we took a fight. There was a fight that came up. It was I'll tell you the whole story. I'll tell you the truth about it. The thing was, there was a fight that I was meant to be there on Showcase, fighting on the Thursday. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of money to fight on the Thursday. We'll call it $10,000, but I'll be back then for 22-year-old boy. So what had happened was there was a world title fight on the Sunday, and the boy had broke his hand. It was NBC television for Madison Square Garden. So they had nobody to fill the show. There was a young Scottish boy training in the I used to train in the Catskill Mountains in a place called the Concord Resort, Glac Kosher up in the Kiamisha Lake. And a fight came up on the Sunday, an opportunity came up. He said, Mike Barrett came to me, he said, right, okay, we can stay on Thursday, fighting the Thursday. That fight can still happen. It's $10,000. Or we can stay and fight on the Sunday because there's an opportunity to come up with television. My first thought and my first question was, how much? And being 23, when you go from $10,000 and he turned around and says, $150,000. There was no question. I said, right, we're staying till Sunday. But I was up in the Catskill Mountains. There was a lot of people. That's where I used to train, and there was a lot of people there. So I had to ask all of them: do they want to stay? Do they want to go home? If they went home, I'd have probably fought on the Thursday. But every single one of them wanted to stay, and they wanted to stay. So I fought on the Sunday and fought a guy called James Buddy McGutt, who was the junior welterweight champion of the world and moved up to welterweight. And at that time, he had 27 fights at welterweight. Madison Square Garden fight. I lived in the Bronx, I think. World class fighter. Took the fight, and I lost that fight. I lost that fight on points. So, and at that stage, I was a little bit devastated.
Yes, and I wanted to ask you about that. I mean, it sounds like very heady days. You're suddenly getting offered all this money for fights. It's all going well. You're in Madison Square Gardens, and then you lose this fight on points. What did that feel like, and how do you kind of recover from that and keep going?
It feels like it's all over, but it's not really. You just don't realise that at the time, being a young man, and you just. And it depends how you lose. It depends how you lose, and it depends who you lose to. You know, he was a world-renowned fighter, a world-class fighter, and taking that fight at short notice. It doesn't matter whether taking it at short notice. I was ready for a fight. You know, taking it at short notice doesn't mean I was just getting ready and just jumping into a fight for money. I was ready to fight. So I was ready to fight. I was the best prepared. But at that time, James Buddy McGutt, because I talked to him now anyway. At that time, he was too good for me. and he just had the beating of me, and sprinting a little bit forward. So the thing is, he beat me. I was a little bit down on that. We came back from that, but he fought, and the reason why I carried on and I wasn't down. I was down and out, but I wasn't down that much. He fought a guy called James Brown, who was the world welterweight champion with 35 fights, 35 wins, and 20 odd knockouts. So when James Buddy McGirt was going to fight him, I'm like, he couldn't do anything with me. He just beat me in points. This guy is a superstar. He is going to get wiped out. And what had happened was James Buddy McGirt beat Simon Brown, and he beat him fairly easy. And he didn't beat me easy. And I'm going, well, I must be better than I think I am. And then it all changed. I made the comeback. I switched management. I switched to Mickey Duff back then, and we rebuilt the career. I was WBC International Champion. I was a Commonwealth Champion. And we switched management to Mickey Duff. And then we went on and we won the British title and the European title after that.
And with every fight, are you watching the other fighters and then taking things from their style of fighting?
Absolutely not at all. Maybe I should have, but no. My mindset in this game was, I'm going to prepare the best I can. You have to deal with me. I don't care what you're going to do. There are styles that are going to beat you, like James Buddy McGirt and like the Parnell Whittaker. So there are styles that are going to beat you that you have to prepare for. But my mindset was, I'm going to do it. I don't care what you're going to do. I'm not interested in what you're going to do, because if I'm too busy worrying about you, I'm not thinking about what I'm going to do. I didn't think about them at all. I just prepared. It was down to the management team to pick the right fights at the time to hopefully get you the wins and to move on. So that's basically what happened.
I was just wondering, like you said earlier, when you started boxing, you realized that you couldn't fight in a sense.
Yes.
You were no longer in the playground. You had to find different ways. And I just wondered if your style or your technique changed in any way, whether it was just from your own instinct or your trainers or
No. My instinct was, I'm coming to take you. You've got something that I want, and that was just my mindset. Is if you want something, you have to go and get it. Nobody's going to give it to you. Some styles like the Buddy McGirts, the Parnell Whittakers, the Floyd Mayweathers, they fight on the back foot. They're exceptional at doing that. But they didn't always do that. Once you get something, somebody has to come and take it off you, so you can change your styles and fight any way you want. My style was, I was an aggressive, come forward type of fighter that was coming to get you. So, and it was always like that. It was just going to be a hard night for you. That was all.
right. And I'm watching on the sidelines, Colin. Just coming to you for a minute. What did you think of Gary's progress and what was happening to him?
Well, before I can answer that, I just want to say that I can see Evelyn Tiefenbrunn has joined us, and I don't know if Ivor's with her, but it's quite an amazing coincidence because Evelyn was my Hebrew teacher at Sean's Academy for a year or two. So it's lovely to see you again, Evelyn. I'm really delighted that you've joined us, and I'm really thankful that you and your husband helped Gary so much.
Evelyn's a wonderful woman. She used to come down and stay with me and look after me as well.
But we'll get an opportunity to open it up and talk to all our guests later. But carrying on with the interview, yeah, Colin, you were going to say
the thing is, I kept in touch with Gary more on a personal level, not so much as on a journalistic level, because every so often when he had a big fight, when he went to Vegas, I remember phoning him up in Vegas and doing an interview over the phone with him. But a lot of the times, just to explain, a Sunday newspaper has got a different dynamic than a daily newspaper. And Gary was being covered every single day, every time he had a big fight. All the daily papers, the Sun and the Record and the Mirror, and they were all covering him all the time. So there wasn't really much new for me to write about on the Sunday. We kept in touch on a personal level, and from time to time I would do an interview with him, but I wasn't really kind of hooked into what he was doing on a regular basis.
I see. I
I
understand
mean, I
that.
could read about him every day of the week, but it wasn't for me. It wasn't really, it wasn't worthwhile from a job perspective to interview
Yes,
him
yeah,
all the time.
I understand that. And all this media coverage, Gary, um, did it ever bother you what people were writing if they criticised how you played a fight?
The media thing, I didn't really bother what people wrote. You know, people are going to write good things, they're going to write bad things. I didn't dwell on any of that. I just kept on winning. I just wanted to keep on winning. If you keep on winning, they can write what they want.
I
I
think
understand.
I think
But
if I
that,
can just add to that Gary did a very very clever thing, and he or somebody with him kept a whole load of cuttings from the newspapers, and I had the luck to go through them all when I was researching the book, and I have to say that 95% of all the stuff that was written about Gary was supportive of him. They actually liked him, and the reason that the papers liked him so much is because he was always a genuine nice person. He really was, and you get a lot of sports people who are not. But Gary was
right.
always like that. He was always nice. He was always kind to everybody, and they loved him.
Absolutely. Listen, the true meaning of a person is how you treat somebody that can do nothing for you. So that, and you don't want to do something because people can do things for you. I've had people that have came and went in my life that have been like that, and I was kind of sort of shocked by it. But most people that are in my life, and to this day, I am surrounded by very generous and very good people, all of them. And I just wouldn't. I wouldn't. I'm just not like that. I'm just. If you're better at something than somebody else, you want to go and help them. You want them to make them as good as you, or to be better than you. So I've had my time in boxing, and it's like, so and I train a lot of professional people now. That's what I do. I'm a personal trainer, and I train a lot of professional people that are professional in their own lives and their own walks of business, lawyers, and obviously the Lynn Products boys, which I love to bits, and it's. So and it helps them, and you want to make them better. I just hate, and my pet hate is bullying. Because I think because I was fighting as a kid as a lot, and there was maybe a lot of bullying, and maybe I got bullied, and I had to protect myself and stand up for myself, and maybe it comes from that, or maybe it just comes from wanting to be a winner. We all want to. We're men, aren't we? We all like to win, and the women. We all like to win as human beings. But as a human being, it's like how you can treat somebody else. To be honest,
Hmm. And talking of bullying brings me on to something else. You proudly wore the Star of David on your shorts, I believe it was.
absolutely. I had the mug and David on the shorts all the time.
Yeah,
I'm Jewish. I'm a Jewish boy. Proud of being Jewish. Bar mitzvah and all the rest of it. I'm proud of being a Jew, and I was like, doesn't matter if you're black, white, Chinese, Catholic, Protestant. We're human beings. Two arms, two legs, 8 pints of blood. None of us are any different.
yeah.
And
But
that's in my eyes.
mhm. And I mean, have you had any anti-Semitism during your career? Have you suffered from that anywhere?
No, no, not that I can remember, and not that I can hear. And it's nothing that I heard. There was a little bit, but I never heard anything, and I've not received anything
So
personally. To be honest,
it was just proud of your identity, proud of your background, and
that was it. Yeah, that was it. Basically, I was one of the Jews that was fighting for all of us. You know what I mean? I was only boxing Jew at the time, so it was like. But there's a Jew fighting and he's in sport. Why not? You want your own to win. Do you know what I mean? You just want.
yes,
Whether it's boxing, football, basketball, baseball, you just want you want one of your own. Is one of your own that you can follow, and you know them, and you have a tendency to lean towards those people, the ones that you know, the ones that you like, and the ones that
hmm
you're on. So, and that's the way. And as I said to you in the beginning, the same way as Ivor and the Tiefenbrooms, love them dearly, and I'll love them forever because without them, I would never have got as far as I did. I don't think well, with their help. It'd been I might have done it. I probably would have done it, but it'd have been a lot harder. But as you say, and it's like I'm nice to everybody. I don't want anything off anyone. So
hmm
it's you just want to help. Uh, and I hope if everyone's listening, Gilad should be on listening to this as well. That's our son.
Well, hopefully he'll, if he's not here, you can see it on YouTube. Um, the, and of course, sometimes people think, or we make a joke about it, that as Jews, we're not interested in sport or we don't do sport. But that's, of course, not true, because sport is full of Jewish people who have done really well or just take part.
Well,
I mean,
Mickey Duff was actually done very well as a boxer, and then became one of the top
right.
promoters because he had lots and lots of fights. And his real name is. Does anyone know what his real name is?
No.
Well, I give it away. His real name is Morris Prager, and there's a guy called James Boyle at the moment that's written a book about him, and that book's just about to come out as well, about the life and times of Mickey Duff. But Mickey Duff is a legend in the sport, probably one of the best to promote. I think he helped Barry Hearn, he helped the Matchroom Boys, but Mickey Duff, well, as I said, the thing is, when you become good, the big boys come looking for you. It's the same in football. The bigger teams come looking for you, and it's your preference which one you want to join. As you start out as a child, you don't think you're going to be the best. You just try and do your best, and then you just become good at it, and you train harder, and it's all about lifestyle rather than about this, as well as the training as we were talking about earlier on, David. It's about lifestyle. It's 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 how you live your life, because things catch up with you eventually.
Yes. And one of the things about boxing is that people see it as a very dangerous sport. And I think lots of sports are dangerous. But for you, on the receiving end of blows and stuff, you can end the fight with injuries. Um, I mean, it must take a lot of courage to go into the ring, knowing that no matter how good you are, you might come out with injuries at the end of the
100%. It doesn't matter. It takes one punch, one unlucky punch, one lucky punch, whatever. It is you're inflicting pain on the other person. And it's a combat sport, and that's why I think it is the ultimate sport, boxing. Because it's just you versus another man, or the two women are fighting, whatever. So it's just you against one another. But it is a skill game. There's back in the olden days when they're cutting the cauliflower ears, the medicals and the things that became a lot more stricter, and it's very hard to become a pro fighter. And there's different fractions of it now. You've got these misfits boxing, you've got YouTubers all doing it, but it is you can get hurt. No doubt about it, you can get hurt. And it's not even getting hurt on the day. It's the damage that you do in sparring. It's the damage you do the 10 years of training, that when you retire 10 years later, that really sort of takes effect. I'm not too bad, actually. I've retired 30 years. I'm only slurring my words a little bit.
right. But your family, your friends who care about you, they must be concerned, every time you go into the ring.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. They just want to come and see you win. It was never spoken about the dangers. We didn't really speak about the dangers and I think when you're in the sport and you're a young man doing it, I don't think you're thinking about that because you're not thinking it's ever going to happen to you. So it's like going to work. You can get hit by a bus. Do you know what I mean? So it's like you can do anything and be hurt doing anything. You just never think it's going to. So you prepare the best you can, do the best you can, live the best life you can to reduce all those fractions.
Right. And any advice you'd give to people coming into boxing about that aspect of it?
Right, just look after yourselves and trust yourselves, and it's eat, sleep, and train, and look after yourselves because the fitter and the more healthy you are, the better you're going to do, and the quicker you listen. We all get damaged. If you're getting a hit in the head, it's going to hurt and it's going to be sore. It depends how many times you get hit in the head, and it depends how much you want to keep on carrying on doing that. But there are some really tough guys that that you can keep on hitting. They just keep coming forward and coming forward. But that's the name of the game. That's the sport. It takes all types of people. But I'm just about me. I'm just happy that I've got out of it with all my faculties intact, to be honest. And I had a great career. It was magnificent, actually. Seen the world: Las Vegas, Madison Square Garden, Atlantic City, Royal Albert Hall about 9 times. Lennox Lewis was on my undercard in 1988 in his first fight. Chris Eubank is a friend. We used to train together, used to spar together when he came over. So I've got lots of friends, still remain lots of friends. Still keep in touch, but when we see each other, we spend time with each other.
So, I mean, all these big fights, these big venues, all the noise, the excitement, as you walk into the ring, and hopefully as you walk out, the victor. It must be quite an adrenaline rush. It must be very exciting. Do you miss all that?
It's the biggest rush on the planet, and the answer to your question is I don't. And I don't because I achieved what I achieved. I done the very best I could. I gave it my all. If I had not done this, not done that, maybe I could have done that. Maybe I could have won this. Maybe I could have won that. So I have absolutely zero regrets about my career. There's been some up times, there's been lots of down times, but zero regrets. Do I miss it? We all miss things, yes, absolutely. Would I want to do it again? I would love to do it again and start all over again fresh. But no, 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 no. I am completely happy and have no regrets about anything about what I've done or not done or achieved in boxing. But just what I like to do is help other people become better at boxing, because boxing is a real skill.
Mm. And that gives you a lot of pleasure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like young Gilad is like, I love him to bits. And he's like, there's a couple of boys that when he came in and he first came in, he was finding it a little bit troublesome against them. But now, a year later, a couple of years later, I will put anybody in with young Gilad Tiefenbroom, and he will hold his own. Absolutely no problem at all. So for me, that's a win-win situation.
Well, I'm not a great sportsman. I did learn to fence and stage fight, and I enjoyed that. I've only once been in a boxing ring, and that's when I was about 11 at JLB summer camp, and I didn't last very long. But I really,
JLB summer camp, a
yeah,
boxing
yeah,
ring.
yeah, yeah. But I really admire the resilience that people like you who work very hard at the sport and training, um, the amount of effort that goes into the focus, it really is amazing. And reading the book, uh, I lived that. You lived all the different fights that you went through, the
Yeah.
ups and downs, and of course the ups and downs for you personally after your career finished. And I know times were difficult, but what I'd like to do is like bring Colin in here and ask you about the process of writing the book. um whose idea was that? Was that you, Colin, or had Gary?
I think it was a combination of Gary and a mutual friend of ours at the time called Timothy Lovett, and they both came to me at my office at the Sunday Post and suggested it. And of course, I jumped at the idea.
2010 that was.
No, it was before that, Gary. Even before that. It took a long time for me to write the book because I actually thought that writing a book, having been a journalist for all my life and written thousands of articles for newspapers, I thought that writing a book would be a piece of cake, but it turned out to be much more difficult. And it took me 3 different attempts to get it right. And it took about 15 years. Not because I was writing all that time, but because other things happened in life and I couldn't just devote myself to it. But yeah, it was a very difficult process. I found it really difficult to do this, which was a surprise to me.
What was the hardest thing about it then?
Well, there were so many hard things. I mean, I can tell you some of the mistakes I made. So the first version of the book that I wrote it as if I were the narrator. And of course, I finished it, and one of my journalistic colleagues pointed out to me that this is Gary's autobiography, and Gary should be the narrator, not you. And so I went, oh yes, why did I not think of that? So I had to redo it. So that was the first mistake, and then it had to be redone. That wasn't a major change, but it did require a bit of time to change it, the wording. And then it took ages to find a publisher. I tried a lot of Scottish publishers, and they all basically either ignored me or just rejected me, us. And eventually, I found a publisher in Manchester who specialised in sports books, and I sent a copy, 2 or 3 chapters to them, and they sent a contract back right away, for us to sign. And so Gary and I sort of finished the book, and I sent it to them, the completed version. And by this time we'd signed the contract, and the publisher, the editor, who was really, really quite good, knew what he was doing, said to me, "Yeah, it's okay, but it's just not quite right." He says, "It's lacking in something, and I can't quite figure out what it is." He said, "Do you think you could have another go at it?" So this, so I thought, well, this is very strange because he wants me. He doesn't like it, but he doesn't know what he doesn't like about it, and he expects me to work it out. And so on and off for the next year, 18 months, I kind of mulled it over in my head until I realized what he was talking about. And basically what I kind of decided that he was saying that there isn't really a theme in the book. It was just really a kind of a chronological story of Gary's career and life. And that, although it was quite interesting, could be a lot better. So I came up with the theme of Fightback, and then I completely rewrote the book to fit into the theme of Fightback, and that's why the book jumps about a wee bit. It's not chronological because it has to fit into that theme. And when I sent it back to him, he loved it. But it took me about 18 months to 2 years maybe to rejig it that way. So all these things added up and took their time. And I think eventually it was about a 15-year project.
Wow. Gary, what did you feel like when you were reading what Colin had written?
I think it's all fairly on the ball, to be honest. And
Yeah.
it's pretty, yeah, he's written. It's just basically what I was talking about. We were talking about it, and it all went on paper. So it's the truth. It's the truth about everything. The good, the bad, and the ugly. I think it's pretty good. I don't know anything about books. It's my life story on paper. So to do I didn't think anything of it, where it's going to go, what we're going to do with it. If I'm going to sell 1 copy, 100 copies, who knows? But just getting your life story put into a small hardback book is just, yeah, I'm absolutely over the moon. Over the moon.
But I guess the mysterious thing, or the thing that you're searching for, is not just to get the facts over, but to portray the character of
Yes.
Gary, and the atmosphere of the times he lived in and the fights he lived through. And maybe that's what in the end you found, Colin, and you were.
Yeah, look, the trouble is that being a newspaper reporter and an editor, most newspaper journalists will write in the same style, which is chronological. You write a news story that's chronological. So that's really ingrained in me, and that's why I wrote it that way, because I just thought I could repeat what I was doing in the papers. But writing a book is different. It requires a different approach. Now that I've found that approach, I think if I was to do this again, it'd be a lot easier. But yeah, there is a certain way that you need to write if you're writing a book, and you just can't produce the facts. You have to actually produce them in a certain way to make it interesting and exciting. And that's really what I set out to achieve. And
You've done it. You've done it. You've done that. You've done that.
And most people that I've spoken to, I mean, quite a few of my friends have said to me that when they started reading it, they couldn't put it down.
I think that's absolutely true, and I think I don't want to give too much away, because I think the very first chapter of the book, which is pretty tough, sets it up and sets up what you've been through, Gary, and one of the toughest fights that you found yourself up against, which wasn't in the ring.
Absolutely, and I truly believe that I'm no different to anybody else. We all have issues, we all have problems. It's how you deal with them, and it's how you come back from them. The thing is, some people give up, some people don't, some people go on and conquer things. So for me, it was yeah, big issues, big problems. And it's, you have a life, and it's a real high. When you're a professional fighter, you're on top of the world, your main events, television, top of the bills, and then that all goes, and then disaster happens. Everything goes. Absolutely everything goes. You then have to sort of give yourself a wee shake and come back for it. You can't just crawl into it. You have to fight your way back. You have to, as men and women, you have to make yourself take accountability. Take accountability for your actions. Don't blame anyone else, and just make the comeback.
And I think that even if you're not a sports fan, you're not interested in sport. I think sometimes reading autobiographies or reading about what sports people go through, and certainly your book, Gary, and in yours, Colin, whether you're interested in boxing or not, there's a real story there, and it will keep you gripped. One last question for you from me, Gary, and is there a particular boxer that inspires you?
Oh, that's a very good question. I just like boxing, to be honest. There's inspired by Muhammad Ali. When you look at there is only one. What he went through in his life, and it was and him, basically him. He was the one that started it all. And when you first get involved in boxing, you know, or when I did back then, there was only one Muhammad Ali. So. They made movies about the man. You've read about him, so yeah, he was a bit of an inspiration, a little bit, I would say. So, when you get to a level, I just look at all these people. They're just everybody in life, and everybody watching this anyway. We're only people. We're human beings. 2 arms, 2 legs, 8 pints of blood. None of us are better than anybody else. None of us. And it's how you can help somebody that can't help you. So that's always been my motto. And going forward and coming back, because coming back is pretty difficult.
Gary and Colin, thank you so much for being with us this evening and sharing your story, and Colin, your story of writing the book. And I wish you all the success with the book and anything else that you're doing in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. It's been a great pleasure to be here and to take part in this.